We should be live. Hi, everyone. I am here with Marcus Vine, whose pretty face you can see in that icon there. Marcus, hello.
Hello, both. Thank you very much for having me. There's a lot's changed since the last time I was on this channel. Hey.
Yes. One thing that has changed is I'm on a different PC. My PC unfortunately died, and you've had a lot going on as well, haven't you? V3 is coming out in a minute.
It's been a busy old year. I'll tell you what, especially the last few months.
Yes.
Really busy, lots
So.
of work, but it's been fantastic, to be honest. You know,
Yeah.
You press post, like 12 o'clock or whenever on a Wednesday. You watch everyone get excited. It's honestly so rewarding. It's great to see.
Yeah, that must be a really fun part of your job, because all of a sudden big changes are coming, and you're all sitting there knowing all about the changes, and then deciding what can we actually tell people, and when should we tell people, and how much should we tell people. A lot of stuff for you to do.
Yeah, it's been challenging, but in a really good way. It's been really rewarding, to go, okay, how much are we going to give people, and why? And the why is the big thing, right? Is to sort of show people as they put all of these blocks together. Okay, now, we're coming up to the end of August. The game launches 26th September. People are starting to get an idea of how the game's going to fit together, and a little bit of a clue as to what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Which is all perfectly interesting, because I mean, a lot of people are very just give me the game right now, please.
Honestly, I've been wanting to play 3rd edition with people for over a year now.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Once you start a new edition, it's like, why would I even want to play V2 when I have V3 right here? It's
It's been really funny, actually. I was helping TO at the Grand Tournament.
Yeah, you were.
And it was really funny the amount of times you go over to a table to answer a question, and you have to stop, think, don't give the 3rd edition answer.
Yeah.
What's really fun is the amount of times you'd make a really complicated ruling, or you'd have to we're going to look at that rule, how that interacts with that and that and that, and make a genuine TO decision. And then I'd walk away from the table going, 3rd ed's going to make that so much easier.
I'm so glad to hear that. Right. So what we're going to do today is we're, of course, going to talk about close combat, which, as this is releasing, came out. The intelligence report from you came out an hour or something ago, hopefully.
Yeah, that's pretty fresh.
It's pretty fresh anyway. So we're going to talk about that. But we also have, I had 50 or so questions from the community. A lot of them were similar. So I basically paraphrased a lot of them down to a small section that I then sent over to you, Marcus. And then Marcus sent back the questions that you're, of course, able to answer right now, because there are still some things that that you need to keep a little bit under wraps, right?
Yeah, we don't. Well, I mean, the big thing is we don't necessarily, want to go out and just tell people everything, because at that point, why did we bother making a rule book, right?
Exactly.
And part of the fun
go on for a couple of days, I guess.
And part of the fun of a new rule book, a new edition, is when that rule book lands in your hands, and it is an absolute monster. I'm really lucky. I've got my copy in front of me here for reference.
Can you tell us how many pages it is?
320.
Wow. Yeah.
It is a monster, of course, with a full index in the back. So I was just putting some bookmarks in for the first few questions on the list, and yeah, it just instantly boom, 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 straight to the index. It was great.
Perfect. So should we just go into the questions from the viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's rock and roll.
Right. The first question was, so how do I pick command vehicles? Because the rules that are out so far says something that if you have to take a command vehicle that has the command vehicle special rule, but then you can also buy the rule for 10 points. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, really short and simple answer is you make sure that in your armored platoon, one of those vehicles has the command vehicle special rule. So that can either be a vehicle with that rule built in,
Yeah.
or it can be any vehicle you like that meets the criteria for an armored platoon, and you pay 10 points. It has command vehicle. That is now your command vehicle. Super simple, loads of freedom.
Super simple and loads of freedom. Yeah, that makes it really easy to pick and choose your armored platoons.
If you want a command vehicle that's an MMG Jeep, you can. If you want a command vehicle that's a Jag Tiger, you can. And basically anything in between.
Yeah, nice. Right. So that was an easy one. Thank you for that one. Then national special rules, are they like, because we've seen a couple of them where are they changed much, or are they just reworked versions of the old national special rules? How do you feel about them?
So the answer is kind of yes. It's a little bit of a two-part question, because obviously the national special rules in the Armies of book are the national special rules that are there to really get you by and get you playing Bolt Action 3rd edition with your 2nd edition collection straight away, get you learning the game and keep you going until your Armies of book comes out.
Yeah.
So in general, including the Army special rules, yeah, they're quite similar to Bolt Action 2nd edition in a lot of respects for most nations in the rulebook. But then people can expect to see bigger changes when the Armies of book comes. Now, some of them have been...
that was a bit of a scoop, saying that. Interesting.
So some of them have changed quite a lot. Armies of the USA, for example.
Yes.
You know, they no longer...
Rule. That is a big change.
Very simply because having the old fire and maneuver made Armies of the USA broken. When we were playtesting, Americans had like a 95% win rate, regardless of who was playing them, what the build of the army was, because they ignored the biggest modifier in the game to shoot. So obviously, way too good, needed to tone down a little bit.
Yeah.
And some of them are very similar. Some of them are pretty much exactly the same. Some of them have changed in a big way. So yeah, the answer is kind of yes.
Yes. Okay, that's a good one, because so they are reworked, but some of them are okay. Yes, I like that answer. Next one. So artillery, can they now share spotters?
Yeah, absolutely. If they are an indirect fire weapon and they're regular or veteran, use any spotter or forward observer.
Okay. Does that mean that if I have a whole artillery battery, I can just buy a spotter for one of the pieces, and then all of them can spot through that one?
Yeah, you absolutely can. However, the biggest thing, of course, there is you've bought one spotter. I'm buying a sniper. That spotter dies turn 1.
He dies turn 1, yeah. Yeah.
Especially with the buffs to snipers in 3rd edition, making them really good at killing things like spotters. So yeah, you absolutely can have all of the guns in your force, you know, be they tanks with indirect fire weapons, be they your artillery battery, all running off one spotter. But if he dies, that's your lot.
Yeah. Then you have to move the heavy howitzer. Good luck with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this only applies to weapons that can use spotters.
Yeah, of course.
So if the weapon entry says you can't use a spotter, then nope, sorry. And obviously, if you're inexperienced, nope.
Yep. Then okay, so that is kept from version 2 to version 3, that inexperienced crews can't use spotters.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and bluntly, you know, it's one of those things which don't spam inexperienced multi-launchers and expect to be spotting them. You know, that's clearly ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, it just eliminates that. But what it also does is it makes a little bit more sense. You know, you've got this one guy potentially who is super important to your whole army because he is the guy on the telephone calling in all that artillery.
So please keep him safe if it's only one guy, or you know, buy 5 if you have 5 pieces that need spotters.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's very much a safety in numbers thing. You know,
Yeah.
you absolutely could min max with, I'm going to take all the guns and one spotter.
Yeah.
In a competitive environment, I would never do that. I would still be running. I still plan to run a 1-to-1 ratio of gun to
Yeah.
spotter.
Yeah. Right. So we're quickly going down the list. The next one here is, will the minor nations be playable? And I want to add a little bit of my own to this question here, because a lot of minor nations had, in version 2, had national special rules that were detrimental more than they were beneficial.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
is it reworked?
absolutely. In the same way, and this is a really good time to introduce a concept that was a guiding principle throughout Bolt Action 3rd Edition's development.
Yeah.
Is it fun?
Yeah.
And is a detrimental special rule fun? Well,
Nah.
not for a lot of the time, not really.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be really fun, but only in conjunction with other things.
Yeah.
Just a negative special rule, that's not very fun.
Yeah.
So, and again, the minor nations, they're going to have PDFs coming out. Like,
Yeah.
again, the get you buy PDFs
Mm.
until armies of books come out.
Yeah.
They're coming out on day one. They're going to be available on launch day. So, you know, is that going to be every single weird permutation of partisans you could make in 2nd edition? Probably not.
But why
Yeah.
not, Marcus? I want my partisans.
Well, partisans are there, but
Guilty.
perhaps not these specific partisans on the 3rd of June, 1944, in this 10 square kilometers of forest in Latvia.
Poot. Right. Okay. So that's really encouraging, because I know people who want to play their Greek armies, and you know,
And I'd say,
Norwegian.
is it absolutely everything you could do with 2nd edition? Almost certainly not. Is it the vast majority of stuff? Absolutely.
Nice. Now, moving on, in 2nd edition, we had generic reinforced platoons, we had tank platoons, and then we had theater platoons. Those were the 3 types of platoons. Is that all gone and dead? Are the theater platoons never coming back? Are the theater books never going to be a thing again? Or what will happen?
Well, theater platoons, first off, are still there. Theater books are still there. They're not going away.
Okay.
Because theater books are a really great way to address specific situations where we do want to have rules for these 20 guys in 10 square kilometers of woods in Latvia on June the 10th, 1944.
Yeah.
You know, that's perfect for a theater book. Now, in terms of, are theater platoons gone? Absolutely not. You know, people like Alistair Unicum, who runs Megatron up in Scotland, where it's a theatre selector tournament. We'd love to see that kind of thing in 2nd edition. We would love to see it continue into 3rd edition, because those resources, all of that research, all of that history, all of those historically inspired platoons still exist. They're still valid, with the caveat that the units in them, some of the really specific stuff might need some tweaking, might get changed, might get folded into an armies of book in the future. But the actual selectors themselves, if they're like 0 to 2 tanks from this list, 0 to 3 infantry squads from this list, you know, those units are probably still going to be there. So they're not dead by any stretch of the imagination.
Are we saying right now that my theater book collection, I can still play with those in version 3, or am I going to have to wait for version 3 theater books to come out, do you think?
No, absolutely. You can still play with those 2nd edition and even those 1st edition theater books.
Nice.
It's just that awareness, like it was from 1st edition to 2nd edition, that some of the units might not exactly work. You know, certainly in a competitive play scenario, I'd be like, hey, probably don't try and use theater book units. But for TOs, if you want to put theater selectors in, go for it. It'll work just fine.
I know Ali will be very pleased to hear that. I just interviewed him earlier today about Megatron, and he will be absolutely thrilled to know that his brainchild there will be able to continue. So that's
absolutely. We love that sort of thing.
Yeah, me as well. Right. Then there was one question here about officers. Can they have an effect outside of their own platoon?
100%. That was one that in playtesting went back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, should your artillery officer only be able to affect his artillery unit?
Yeah.
And in the end, it became too much bookkeeping, and
Yeah.
it took away from fun.
Yeah.
So yes, officers are officers are officers. All of the dudes on your side of the table are the same force. All your officers work on them.
Okay. Because it's one of those things where you instinctively I say, right, the officer for that platoon is the officer for that platoon. He can't give an order to that platoon. But in actual gaming, that is just so much keeping track of.
Yeah, it turns into a nightmare really quickly. It slows things down and it gets in the way of having fun.
It really does. So that was a nice short answer. Thank you for that one. We've got more short answers, I think. Is Tiger Fear still a thing?
Nope, gone.
A lot of people will be happy to hear that one.
Bluntly, it was a rule that had a big revision because it was too much one way, went the other way. It was never quite what it was supposed to be, I don't think.
Yeah.
And it's one of those rules where when we looked at it and when, what rules are Germany going to have in their Armies of book? What are they going to have in the Get You By book? Does this rule have a place in Bolt Action 3rd edition? Not really. It's not very fun. Got rid of it.
Nice. And then there was one guy, I think, longing for version 1, saying, are templates still a thing?
Absolutely 100% still in the game.
That's good for me because I sort of like my templates.
Spread those troops out. Templates are still here.
There is a debate about templates, right? There is there's one group of people that really hate the template thing, and I think most of them played version 1, and there's a group of us that really like the templates. So, yeah, couldn't please both of us, I guess.
I mean, personally, I'm really pro template. Yeah, I like it. It makes sense. It forces me to think about how I'm putting my units. It forces me to think about not clumping up. Yeah. From a personal competitive standpoint, I really like that. But by the same token, if the way that you're going to have more fun is to play with the old, D6, 2D6, whatever number of hits, there is absolutely nothing stopping you from doing that. The most important thing about Bolt Action is that everyone playing has fun. And if everyone playing is having fun, no matter how you're playing Bolt Action, you're playing it right.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is such a crucial point of our philosophy as a company in general. We make toy soldiers. Yeah.
We're adults playing with toy soldiers. It needs to be fun.
We make things that are fun. Take what we make, go and have fun with it, and we love you for it.
Yeah. Right. So that was the questions from the viewers. Thank you to everyone who wrote in. And if you guys have any further questions, write them in the comments. I'm not sure that Marcus will be here to answer them, but I will certainly try to do so. Right. Marcus, today you released the intelligence report on close combat. Do you want to talk us through how close combat has changed?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a really simple change.
Yeah.
So close combat in 2nd edition was really nasty.
Yeah.
But it really rewarded just going gung-ho charging your opponent.
It did.
To be honest, it really rewarded armies that were built with melee in mind rather than shooting in mind. And that's not what the Second World War was. That really isn't representative of even the Hollywood idea of the Second World War. So the big thing that's changed is there's a change to who strikes first.
Okay.
So in terms of close quarters in general, if you want to charge someone, you declare you make an assault, give a run order. Obviously, if you need to pass the order check, you pass the order check. Check your range, make sure you're in range. Your target reacts, do they give reaction fire?
Yeah.
And then you fight your first round. So in Bolt Action 2nd edition, we'll make it really simple. There's 2 units in open ground, right?
Yeah.
In Bolt Action 2nd edition, the unit that charged strikes first. Attacker strikes first, right?
Yes.
In 3rd edition, fight simultaneous.
Ooh, that is a big change.
Yep. So,
That
and
will,
then
yeah,
from
that
there, if it's a draw, fight another round, or whoever loses, wiped out, just as before. So rolling, it's straight rolls to wound, exactly the same as 2nd edition. But you see, we've shifted one thing,
yeah.
and suddenly charging that unit in open ground isn't a no-brainer anymore.
No, it definitely isn't. I think actually, it's going to be really it's going to make people think quite a bit about charging, because now you're running into defensive fire, and then you're going to have to be sure to win that close combat, which is never going to. Ooh, that is going to be
Absolutely.
for charges.
And that's, it doesn't end there. So what you've seen is we've shifted to the left, right? We've shifted one step to the left. And the same is true for defensive positions.
Okay.
If you're charging into people in defensive positions, so that's if the assault has gone across obstacles or rough ground, or where the defender is being fought across an obstacle, defender strikes first.
Wow, that is a big bonus. That is going to really boost your defense, isn't it?
Yep. So if you want to take a run at that squad that are holed up in a building, good luck. Because that's how it should be historically, right? You know, in real life, you don't go, oh, the enemy are in that building. Quick, lads, we'll charge across the town square with bayonets. You go, right, we're going to pin them down with our rifles. Maybe we'll call up a tank or some artillery to blast them. We'll do something to avoid having to run onto their guns. And only as a last resort, when there's no other option, are we going to charge headlong. So there are a couple of little exceptions to that, which I'm not going to go into some of them. One of them I will. Units with the engineer special rule. Nullify defensive positions when they're assaulting units in buildings, specifically buildings. But
so they will go simultaneously?
They go simultaneous. And obviously units with the engineer special rule, that's things like, you know, your big nasty pioneer squads or assault engineers. You're probably taking them as veteran. You've probably filled them out with SMGs. Those are, you know, the kind of unit that you might expect to go, yeah, all right, we'll take that simultaneous dice roll and I think we can win. Have
you, because you've played a few games at least of version 3, how's your experience? Do assaults happen anyway, or are people now staying away from assaulting?
Assaults are still a tool in the toolbox. What they're absolutely not is the weapon of first resort. Because now, you know, if you think 2nd edition, I've got a unit within 12 inches of the enemy. The enemy maybe aren't in the greatest position. I want to destroy that unit that turn. I could advance 6 inches and shoot them point blank, but they're going to go down. I'm going to probably be looking at, you know, 6s or 7s if they're in any kind of cover. So in 2nd edition, charge. In you go. Just clear them off, especially if I've got the numbers advantage. Obviously, we see with the changes to shooting now that actually, and when you factor in these changes to assault, actually, you're probably better off getting up close and shooting them rather than running in and trying to just jab them to death with bayonets.
Yes, because that would be my next question. Like in version 2, there were like a few key moments in the game where you could delete an enemy unit. Close combat was one of them, right? A big HE shot straight to the face of an infantry unit, or a flamethrower, or even one of the darker tanks. But the darker tanks have gone now from the edition, the version 3. And
well, the darker tanks are still there. It's crucial to add. You're still getting what, 10, 12 shots out of a Dakar Stuart. It's just 10, no longer the. It's no longer the automatic, I must have this because it's objectively so efficient. But so a lot of those other things, though, the flamethrower, the big howitzer to the face, those can still delete a unit, and close combat as well absolutely can still delete a unit. You know, even if you only win the combat by 1, it's just the same as it is in second edition. The losing unit just dies immediately.
Yeah.
But now there's that risk. So now you're thinking, actually, should I bring that flamethrower up? Or actually, should I consider, you know, using that HE shot
instead? Yeah. So so a lot more different. Can you use, in your experience then, can you use the direct shooting to delete units? Can you actually shoot a unit down so much that it sort of becomes ineffective? Or
no, that's
all of that?
it's a really situational question, right?
Yeah.
Because if the unit's in heavy cover and they really want to hang on to that unit, you go down, you're in heavy cover, you're looking at a 2+ cover save, right?
You are, yeah.
So that shooting probably isn't going to do a great deal of damage. But remember, pins go on before cover saves.
Yeah.
So you can really pile on those pins, and suddenly that unit that was down, maybe it's not taken many casualties, but now you're on 3, 4, 5 pins.
Yeah.
And so now you're thinking about, oh, I'll just use the new rally rule to rally off all my pins.
But then you can't go down.
Exactly. And then suddenly you're not down. And suddenly you've stayed in the same place for 2 turns. That HE's ranging in. Indirect HE ignores cover.
Yeah.
You know, it's much more about slightly more realistic combat of, okay, they're in a really good position. Well, we're going to pin them down and bring up the weapons that are actually supposed to deal with them, rather than a bunch of dudes with sharpened sticks are just going to run across the table yelling at them. Because
so
that's not really bolt action. That's a bit more Hail Caesar, right? Let's be honest.
A lot more Hail Caesar or Napoleonics. Right. So in your experience, like the synergy of having different units for different jobs becomes really important.
If you're playing competitively, you need combined arms. It's really interesting. Just to go on a slight tangent, obviously we've seen lots of people going, oh, I'll just bring, 4 multi-launchers and, 1 spotter, or 4 heavy howitzers and 1 spotter and a company commander, and I'll snap to my whole army and all of this. And that is like, sure, that is a way you can play. What are you spending the rest of your points on that's actually going to win you the game? If your opponent outflanks, if you don't get those dice rolls you need, if your opponent gets within minimum engagement distance to nullify those multi-launchers.
Yeah.
Or if snipers start taking out your spotters, start taking out your company commanders. And it's that what's really interesting is, I think, this is a personal prediction, I'd love to come back on in a year and see where we're at.
You're absolutely welcome to do that. That would be great. Yeah.
I think we're going to see between 6 and 8. This is the single best way to play 3rd edition in the next 12 months.
That would be amazing.
I think we're going to, look how much we saw even at the tail end of 2nd edition. Mechanized barbecue lists were in and they were out. Daka Stewart lists came in. Maori Gurkhas or Gurkha Paras came in.
Yeah.
Bamboo Spearmen came in, went out, came back in.
Yeah.
And that was just in like 2 years at the end of 2nd edition.
It was. Yeah.
And right now, Brave New World, new army books dropping as well. Let's not forget that. I think we're going to see people, 6 to 8. I've done it. I've completed bolt action. I have unlocked the secrets of the universe. I know how to play bolt action better than anyone else because I've got this one silly trick. I think we're going to see.
But Marcus, we all think we can do that. That is just part of it.
And I think we're going to see all of those different ideas revert to being good for 3 wins.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, that is true.
Because it took what, nearly 10 years?
Yeah.
For the 2nd edition meta to coalesce into maybe 6 or 7 really strong builds.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and that was a really mature game.
It was, and people were. We sort of all felt like we had it figured out at that point, but it did take
But
quite a while.
let us not forget, Bo.
Yeah.
You and the Danish Vikings at World Open War nearly getting upset by the USA Swans with off-meta lists.
Yes. So it does happen quite often.
and that was right at the end of second edition.
Yeah.
And it's good. I'm so excited from a purely competitive standpoint. I'm so excited to see what people come up with. I'm really excited to start sort of sharing some of my builds that I've been working on that I can't talk about. You know, it's. I hope one day you rate one of my army lists as good for 3 wins.
Do send it in. I will absolutely try.
I think you gave my US Marines at 3 good men mid.
Yeah, that was a mid one. Yeah, that's true.
In fairness, I was really close to good for 3 wins, and then I messed up my strategy on the last turn and left myself needing 1 dice roll to win. Never leave yourself needing a dice to win.
No, never do that. And and you let your list down, really.
Yeah, that but no, to get sort of slightly back on track.
Yeah,
you can just see how that one little shift of one line in the rules
changes such a lot.
Yeah, and it just revitalizes the game, right? You're sat there going, now, well, my Gurkhas that were going to just charge stuff.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah. So now are you going to take those Gurkhas? Maybe not. So what do you take now? And you know what I mean? Same with those brain carriers. Those like, oh, all those shots. Well, they're half now. So what are you going to take instead?
Yeah.
And it resets the meta.
It really does.
It resets the ideas. And the great thing is this is a very small minority of us that really love the competitive game. And for everyone else that plays, whether they play purely historical, whether they just love playing the game as it is presented to them, they've got all these brand new options, all these great new ways to play, and a simpler, more streamlined, more fun game. And then we're over here in the corner going, but what about this bit of wording? What about that unit? And we're all having fun.
Yeah. And hopefully a lot of, as you've said on several podcasts already, a lot of the need for an FAQ. Yes, I know there will be an FAQ, but because of course people will ask questions, but a lot of the need will diminish with the new edition, the streamlined rules, the clearer rules. The few times I've heard you just explain rules so far, the few examples I've seen all seems much like more streamlined and clear.
Yeah, and that was a deliberate choice. Is, you know, let's make sure these rules that caused confusion previously. I mean, Reki's a great example.
Yeah.
Reki now, you must try to do A.
Yeah.
If you cannot achieve A, you must try to achieve B.
Yep.
If you cannot achieve B, you must try to achieve C. If you cannot achieve any of those, you must at least do D.
Yeah.
And it's a really clear flow chart. There's no worrying about, oh, is that legal? Is that in the order of operations? Can I do that? It's follow the chart.
It's really simple. I like it a lot.
And it just makes the game more fun because let's be honest, the more time you spend rolling dice, the more time you spend, and I'm going to steal something from Alessio, the author here.
Yeah.
What he aims for, what his kind of guiding principle is that he said a few times in various interviews, is a game where people spend most of their time thinking about their next move tactically and as little time as possible thinking about the mechanics of the game.
Yep. That makes absolute sense. Right. Marcus, thank you so much for coming on. I will take you up on the offer to come on in a year's time and let's talk the meta, how it's all changed. See if your prediction is right, that we will see 7 to 8 meta ways of playing the new version 3 bold action. Do you have any comments here at the end?
Yeah, so there was one question in your sort of question pack that I wanted to latch onto a little bit to end. And it was a kind of a really simple question, which is, how is 3rd edition a better game than 2nd edition?
Yeah.
And I really wanted to touch on that because we're very proud of Bolt Action. We firmly believe it is the world's best World War II war game. And with 3rd edition, we think it just got better.
Yeah.
So, how is that? Well, crucially, it prioritizes fun. It prioritizes player engagement with the game. It prioritizes people being able to do things, having the agency and the freedom to play the game they want to play. So that's why it's a better game. And then there's loads of stuff where you can talk about with, quality of life, things like rules being tightened and tidied, things that were overpowered in last edition, getting brought back down, things that were underpowered, getting brought up. But the crucial thing is, it is a game that has been designed, an edition that has been designed with the maximum amount of fun in mind. So that's why it's better at its core.
That sounds like a good guiding light for writing a rule set anyway. Right. Marcus, thank you so much. I will talk to you again, and good luck, and I will hopefully see you at World Open War.
You will indeed, Bo. I'll be down there running the media side of things again. Really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to seeing what people come up with right at the start of the new edition. Thank you so much for having me on. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. I can't wait for 3rd edition. Good luck. Have fun.
Me neither. I want it now. Please send it to me, Marcus. Cheers.